I am thrilled to welcome our next three panelists up on the stage. We have Matthew James, Deirdre Sommerkamp, and Rishi Kapoor, who are here to talk about everyone's favorite relationships, the AE and customer relationship. Now, this panel is really exciting for a lot of reasons, and I'm just going to call it out because I'm particularly proud. We have a lot of PSE ambassadors who are on the call today, but this is a panel of all PreSales Collective ambassadors. For those of you that don't know, our PreSales Collective Ambassador program is an application and interview-based program for folks in our community who want to take a level and step up and help our community grow. And these three fabulous people, along with other folks in our community, totaling 15, are some of those ambassadors. So Matthew, Rishi, and Deirdre, it's a pleasure to see all of you. I will go ahead and pass it over to you to get us started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Shauna, and a big thank you to everyone who has come before us today already. I think we have some big shoes to fill. I'm sure Rishi and Deirdre, you'll agree with me. I have especially enjoyed hearing the stories. The 5-minute snippets just really don't feel like enough, do they? But I think that's one of the great things about being in community, that these people are still around. So I hope that there'll be some great conversations sparked off the back of this. So everyone, welcome to our session. We're going to be focusing on two of the big reasons why pre-sales even exists: the relationships between the AEs, the pre-sales professional, and the prospect or customer. So we're going to be hearing from Rishi and Deirdre on how we manage these relationships and what that looks like in the context of today's diversity report. So it's really good to be talking with you. Let's quickly introduce ourselves and then we'll get into it. I'm Matthew. I work in New York City as a solutions consultant. I do some management and I also do some IC work. I'm your typical player coach. Rishi, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Matthew, and hello to everyone out there. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rishi. I'm a PSC ambassador. I'm based in the UK. I've been in the world of pre-sales or sales engineering for over 5 years now, and currently managing a team across EMEA, but I've been in IC roles and other management roles as well.
And Deirdre.
I'm Deirdre Sommerkamp. I am VP of Solutions Consulting, and I also oversee the sales enablement function for our business unit, which is sales effectiveness. And so I am both a player manager as well as, from my background, it's all about sales effectiveness and working with salespeople and sales leaders. So I look forward to the discussion.
It's very obvious why the two of you are featured speakers on this panel. So one more quick reminder for everyone who has tuned in: use the Slack for your commentary and drop any Q&A that you have right here in the Zoom Q&A function. Remember, the chat in Zoom will be disabled, but I want to see lots of questions coming in through the Q&A as we're getting through this. So to kick us off, let's lay the groundwork with a little bit of an idea of how these relationships work. So to Rishi first and then Deirdre after, can you talk me through the process of building relationships with your AE and your prospect when you're working on a deal?
It's a really interesting question, and I want to try and be as personal in my answer as much as I can, because I want to share my experiences. Where I'm working at the moment is the only place of me working as a sales engineer or working in the sales org. I came from the world of consulting and business, and I kind of learned it in a bit of a challenging way in terms of how perception is so important when you're working with AEs as an SE. So I'll give everyone a bit of an example. So as a strategic SE, I was aligned to 3 AEs. One AE didn't want to work with me at all because he thought I'm absolutely useless. I have no experience. He's just fixated on this superstar SE in my team, one of my colleagues. He didn't want to work with anyone else apart from that person. The second AE was open, was willing to work with me, was sort of ended up being my partner in crime. And the third AE didn't care who they worked with. They just wanted somebody where they could just palm off all the tasks and activities onto. So that person was a bit of a sucker, literally a sucker, because if I gave them 200% of my time, he would have taken it. So very quickly, I had to build different relationships within each AE. Their personalities were very different. And prior to being aligned to them and working with them, when I knew that I am going to be working with them, I had to do some research because, like it was just mentioned in previous sessions, I had to sell myself. I had to build a business case for that AE who didn't want to work with me and they wanted to work with that other person, to actually prove to him that actually I know what I'm talking about. I've got the technical experience. I've got the certs. Give me a chance. Let's just work together on a couple of deals and opportunities and see how it goes. And his personality was very much like, Rishi, I'll call you, I'll message you, I'll let you know when I need help. Leave me alone. I was like, fair enough. The second AE, we worked really well. We aligned, we did a lot of prep calls and conversations, we did mutual account planning, we were very strategic. And the third AE, I had to start being really open and honest with him, where essentially just explain that, look, I don't spend 200% of my time in the week with you. I'm supporting two other of your colleagues, and these are the pressures that I'm faced with in the business, and we're all working together as one goal. He works in the organization as well. He's going to benefit from me supporting the other two AEs in one shape or form. So my experiences were very different with all three, and let's just say, as somebody brand new in the world of sales, this was probably 6 months into my career. Yeah, it was difficult, very, very difficult. But yeah, managed to get through it. But yeah, I will never forget those experiences.
Thanks for sharing that, Rishi. It's interesting to just think about the different models that organizations have. So Upland is a little bit different. We don't have like a 3-to-1 ratio. What we do is we have an automated process where if an AE needs or wants to request the help of an SC, they put in an SC request from Salesforce on the opportunity record. And then we assign someone to that particular request based on subject matter expertise or level of knowledge. So there's this, they can certainly request someone if they want to request someone, but the solution consulting team is a partner with the global sales team. We both report to the same general manager. And so we're attached at the hip, so to speak. We attend the sales calls, we attend territory planning, we do deal reviews, we give feedback. We're like, no, you should qualify that one out. We're not afraid to be that challenging force to the sales team and to the AEs. So they have this love, maybe not hate, but this kind of interesting relationship with us, where if they want to hear the truth, they're going to ask us for our opinion. If they want us to just customize an instance for a demonstration, then they'll ask for that and they'll get that. So we participate in discovery calls, in demonstrations, in helping build relationships with prospects. So our AEs are very strategic, and they're focused on helping build value and helping the customer, regardless if our solution is the right one. They're like, how can we help people? So we, as solution consultants, will partner with the sales team and build relationships with our SE and SC counterparts at the prospect. So, we really look at it from a team approach, and we recognize that in a team, the best teams have a mix of different personalities and have different styles.
Yeah, I think that is totally true. And I could ask so many questions on both of those sets of experiences. I think I have to limit myself to just diving into one thing. So Deirdre, can you say a little bit more about when one of your team members leaned on a strong relationship with an AE?
Sure. So one that comes to mind is an SC had a personal emergency in the middle of doing a discovery call. And so this was a technical discovery. So the SC was leading it and was asking the questions. And in the middle of the call, the SC had a personal emergency. Long story short, one of the kids fell, needed stitches, needed to be brought to the hospital. They felt like they should go with their spouse. So the SC messaged the AE in Teams privately and said, look, personal emergency, here are the questions, can you take over? And so the AE jumped right in and they seamlessly transitioned the question asking over to the AE, and the prospect wasn't aware at all. So it was like, they just work so closely together because they do know each other well, and they have that collaboration.
Yeah, that's amazing. How long have those two been partnering together?
So one of the first things that we do on our onboarding, whether it's SCs or AEs, first of all, we're involved in the hiring process. So oftentimes we're interviewing and having the AE do a presentation to us, or likewise, we're doing presentations to the AEs right during the hiring process. So from the get-go, we're saying one of the activities in your onboarding is to set up a meeting with all of the AEs and get to know them and start building relationships. So in this particular case, it was less than a year, but it just goes to show that we build really close relationships internally across our team.
Yeah, that is really impressive. And I like the idea that you're aligned first in the same organization and then aligned on your specific goals, even to the point where you're basically hiring each other. So Rishi, I'm going to toss one over to you now. So you've had some really interesting experiences, it sounds like, with your AEs. And it sounds like you've walked through a couple of challenges here too. So what about a time when the vision for the customer differed between the SE and the AE?
Yeah, I'm sure we have so many examples, but one example that comes to mind, at Alteryx, we sell innovation programs, and those innovation programs have an exit strategy. And from a sales perspective, or from a salesperson's point of view, that exit strategy will hopefully lead to a larger deal or an expansion. And there was one example which came to mind, which shows how I and the AE were true trusted partners, or I like to see the AE-SE combination as sort of equal partners in business, where you have the same incentives, the same objectives. You're looking for the customer success on the same level. So it's not just about selling, it's not just about the revenue, but it's about long-term customer success and the benefits to the prospects and customers. This is the power play of the AE and the SE. So in this specific example, the customer's exit strategy was different to what the AE wanted. The customer was very cautious. They were a brand new customer, so it was a new logo. They wanted to just take things step by step during that 6-month period. So they wanted to like exit on a smaller strategy. The AE wanted the customer to exit on a larger strategy because they were, it would mean more revenue. But essentially that trusted partnership, which I had with the AE, was I was open and honest, and I was like, look, I like to say that the SEs are the voice of reason with our AE counterparts, where it's like, let's just take a couple of steps back. This is what the customer wants. We want a long-term relationship with that customer. So let's come up with another mutual account plan, and let's get the customer involved in that plan. And the AE, listens to the SEs, because the point of view from the SE is equally as important as the AEs. So we took a couple of steps back, and the AE understood the customer's point of view. We got the customer involved in that exit strategy and that mutual account plan. And the customer tends to appreciate it that we're keeping their strategy in mind, because we have strategic conversations with our customers. It's like, well, let's help you get to where you want to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years. We're the customer's trusted partner as well. So I work for a software company. We sell software to prospects and customers. So we want that customer to use us for as long as possible. So I think taking steps back, having mutual account plans with the AE and the customer is very important for the SC to be part of that planning. So I've heard stories, with other SCs at the pre-sales collective, they're not involved in the account planning. They're not involved in the strategy sessions. They're just getting called upon to do a demo. That's very tactical in my mind, and you're not a trusted partner with the AE. So, equality is really important from this perspective. So having that equal relationship on that account with the AE will really help.
I resonate with that quite a lot. And if I was going to guess, I think the impact on the relationship with the customer is ultimately they see you even more as a trusted partner. And
Yeah.
I think we can all relate to working with an AE who's trying to hang up a flag without a flagpole. And we kind of have to get back to basics a little bit and help them build the vision for getting there, because we're all aligned on that success. It's just taking the practical steps to actually get there. So for Deirdre, since you have a global SE team, this is probably really interesting given the context of today's discussion. Can you talk a bit about some good questions that you've asked your AE when you're working across borders, and what has that looked like in the organization?
Great question. So we do leverage the relationship the AE has with the prospect and ask questions internally. So we do have an internal prep call, and we'll ask, what are the cultural norms and nuances we should be aware of before meeting with the prospect? What is their typical communication style? Is it direct or indirect? Are there any sensitive topics, phrases, or words that we should be aware of that don't translate well? Or are there any things that you've heard the prospect say that we might not understand that we should know about, right, ahead of time? Are there specific gestures and body language that we should avoid for that culture? Not just what are the priorities for that prospect, but what are the priorities and values that culture represents? What's important to that particular culture? I also think, in our discovery calls and in our demos and presentations, we also want to be aware of common business practices that may differ, right? So we do a certain order of things in the States. What does that order of operations look like in all of the other geos that we're working with?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And personally, I haven't worked in a situation like that. So it's really interesting to hear your perspective on the awareness of cultural norms that you're working with. So shifting it over a little bit to our prospects and partners. Deirdre, you talked a little bit about when your AE and SE worked together and relied on a strong relationship. What does that look like when working and relying on a strong relationship with your prospects?
So another interesting example was when the SC and the AE were located in the same geographical area, which isn't always the case. I mean, Upland has been, remote first way before the pandemic. So we've always been remote. Sometimes we go on site, but in this particular case, the AE and the SC were both located in California, and they lost internet and they lost power in the middle of a demo with a prospect's executive team. Like it was like a final demo before they were going to sign. And long story short, the prospect all of a sudden lost connection with the SC and the AE. And it was our team's depth of relationship with that prospect that got us a second demo and a second presentation with this executive team that was super hard to schedule within the first place. So again, it's because we were seen as trusted partners. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had a shot. Like we would have just been like, yeah, they left during the middle of the demo, not understanding that these two individuals lost internet and power at the exact same time.
That sounds like a nightmare scenario. I don't know what I would do if that ever happened to me. What was it in the lead up to that the AE and the SE did to build such a strong relationship with this prospect?
So when you think about selling, right, salespeople or AEs are what we call single threaded, right? They might have 2 or 3 contacts that they're working with within an organization, but we build wide. And so we use relationship maps and insight maps, and we keep track of people we're talking to. What are the team relationships we have across our internal team and that prospect, executive to executive connections. So we're doing multiple outreaches in building relationships and leveraging the relationships that we have. And we're looking at it holistically. So it's not just, a one-on-one or 1 to 3 short relationships. It's, we understand your organization. Like, we want to just consult with you and help you, regardless of whether our solution is a fit. We just want to be partners.
Multi-threading works every time, right? That's amazing that they were able to recover such a challenging scenario. Okay, so let's make it a little spicy. Rishi, what if we're not even dealing with a prospect anymore? We've also got a partner in the mix. So what experiences have you had dealing with this, and how has it worked?
It's so interesting because based on what you're just saying, Deirdre, I can just so relate to these sort of stories. Alteryx is a partner-driven organization. And as is many sales organizations, and we can't do business without partners. So for example, Deirdre, you're referring to going as wide as possible, going and talking and building relationships to as many teams as possible within the prospect and customer orgs. Where I work, we can't do that without partners. Partners have long-term relationships with the prospects and customers. I've had experiences where AEs, for example, don't want to work with partners, and some do. And it's really interesting because if you ask me, are you truly strategic with your partners? I would say yes. Partners bring in the strategic approach. And I had AEs in the past where they're like, look, we are not going to work with partners. We want to go direct. We don't want to give away any of our contacts or relationships. And they've only gone and sold to 1 or 2 departments and teams within that org. Then they get that meeting with the execs or the board. And the board is looking at the organization very wide. They're not just looking at the benefits to finance and tax. They're literally assessing all of the departments across that org to be like, well, do we really want to buy your software, or do we want to go for your competitor? And one benefit of working with partners is that you can get to the top, you can go wide, you can build those relationships in multiple teams. But what's even more important is, I'm an expert in the software I sell, but I'm not an expert in every industry, every business, every vertical in the whole world. We have partners who are those experts and have that experience in retail or finance or marketing or whatever. So I think, that AE learnt the hard way, and I would like to say probably got hurt and burnt with opportunities and deals which didn't close as strategically or as large compared to, if he or she would have had a partner involved on that deal or opportunity. Now, there's only one of me as an SE, and I'm supporting 3 strategic AEs. So I've got around 10 to 12 strategic accounts. Now, I can't go and give as much time to each account compared to a partner who's already embedded within their orgs. Now, say, for example, a customer or prospect comes to me and be like, well, we don't work with partners, but I have this issue around a specific business problem. I'll be like, I know this partner who works with us, and they know our technology really well, and they know your industry really well. We can help overcome your business problems within 6 months. You don't have to spend 5 years to help solve them. So at the end of the day, it's thinking about the customer success again in terms of, well, sometimes we have to deal with the internal friction with the AEs who will be arguing with the SE around, we don't want to get a partner involved. It's going to affect our margin. The commission plan is going to get impacted. I want to go direct. Think about the long-term vision for the customer and the benefits of the customer. Get the partner involved. Be strategic. The AE will end up getting the larger revenue numbers, or will end up getting the higher commission as a result. But it's all around building the art of the possible with the AE and helping the customer visualize that actually with an expert involved in their industry, their business problems can be solved within a couple of months. And we saw that during COVID, for example. So, you know, there's this whole thing about digital transformation. We got the experts involved, we get the partners involved. And, you know, I have customers who, you know, built their digital transformation journey within a couple of months during COVID, as opposed to 5 to 10 years. So I've gone through so many challenging conversations with my AEs where they don't want to get a partner involved, or they want me to do the job of, say, 20 consultants that, you know, that the partner could be able to provide. And it is hard for us at SEs, you know, to help our colleagues realize the benefits of having partners involved.
I think one of the things you broke down really well is the number of accounts that a lot of SEs have to juggle. And this is going to be different for everyone. But if you take your standard working week, you've got 10 to 12 strategic level clients. So you could really spend an entire week on any one of them if I know strategic accounts well. And that means you really only can dedicate 4 to 5 hours a week to each of these accounts, which are huge. And the opportunity to bring in someone who really knows how these organizations work and is deeply embedded is such a great thing to actually accelerate and probably grow the deal in the long run. So we've talked a little bit about what it looks like building strong relationships with AEs. We've talked about what it looks like to build strong relationships with prospects and partners. So let's bring it all together. And I want to do this with a bit of a thought experiment. So Deirdre, let's say you've got a demo with your prospects, whole buying team. So you're going to have every decision maker. You have the opportunity for a 30-minute prep call, but you can only pick between either your AE or your champion at the customer. So who are you going to pick and why?
Good one. I am going to say, I'm going to go with the champion, because SCs ask different questions than AEs. And I know that if our goal is to move to the next activity in the sales cycle, right, and we have to make sure that we have the right answers and the right questions asked. So that would be my goal, is to hear what the prospect has to say firsthand. And then I know that I can always email the AE just to validate what I heard, right? Or get their insight. I could just send them an email. So I'm going to leverage that time with the champion.
You are spot on, especially when you said, we need to focus on what is the thing we want to get out of this. And it's always to get to the next stage in the buying cycle. I've seen deals really lose their way when we forget that it's not about making ourselves look good. It's not even necessarily about having a good conversation with the prospect. You're always focused on what is the next thing we need to do in order to move towards that signature. I love that you mentioned that. Rishi, I'm going to put you on the spot here too. What do you think about this question? Who would you pick and why?
I would actually go for the champion as well, and the AE will appreciate that I picked the champion, because the relationship with that champion is gold dust. You know, the AE, if the AE trusts me as as their trusted partner in crime, they'll be like, yeah, Rishi, go and speak to the champion, because you can speak to me anytime. You can even Teams me, or, you know, we can have a conversation afterwards, or, you know, get the intel from the champion, or build that relationship. So SEs tend to be the good cops from a prospect and customer perspective, because guess what? We don't talk about commercials. We just want to help that prospect or customer achieve their goals from a technical point of view. So yeah, I think the AE would appreciate me choosing the champion as well.
Really strong answers for picking some time with the champion. I think this makes us all, though, have to make sure we've built a strong relationship with our AEs here so that we can then take that learning back and keep the deal moving forward. So Rishi, a little bit more here. AEs, they're focused on revenue, which is exactly what they should be doing. That's their job. They're thinking about the revenue they're going to get from a deal. And like you said, SEs are really focused on achieving a specific success for the client and making sure they see that technical value. How do you manage times when maybe the right use cases to achieve value haven't been selected?
Good question, actually. And I think from time to time, it's a misconception that, you know, AEs are incentivized by revenue. They're motivated by it, but so are SEs, because we're supporting the AEs to get to those revenue goals, or we're helping our regions, for example, hit their quota targets. So SEs are also motivated to make sure that that happens from our internal business points of view. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're proving out those prospect or customer use cases technically. Because if that prospect or customer doesn't see the technical value from the software that I'm selling, they will not use the software. So they may be purchasing a license, but that license will be gathering dust on the shelf. And then as a result of that, that customer is not going to renew and they're going to churn. So, previously, where I'm working at the moment, many years ago, the SE wouldn't get involved in the qualification and the discovery. So we would only get involved once the AE has done the discovery, the qualification, the demo, and we've got what we call a guided trial. So guided trial is really, helping the prospect or customer build out their use case for a number of weeks, and then they like our software, they'll go and purchase it. Essentially, we flip the script. So we influence the sales teams to allow us to be part of that discovery and qualification. So we really, get involved in qualifying out the use cases at very early on in the sales cycle. We don't want to delay the sales cycle like we've done in the past, where midway, we've got to go back to the beginning again because it's not a right use case, or, the customer process isn't going to be solved within that guided trial or that evaluation. So we've really started to have open conversations with our sales teams to be like, well, get us involved as early as possible. Worst comes to worst, we'll be with you and we can validate the prospect use cases very quickly, find the right ones, have a shorter sales cycle. The customer's going to be happy and we're going to be happy. So, we've been quite open and transparent nowadays with our sellers.
Yeah, and I see some really good call outs here from Kevin and from Miriam that I think probably every SE organization has had this back and forth with the ask of please getting us involved sooner, because we want to do really strong validation and have that long-term perspective of giving value to the customer. So we have one final question for our two panelists, and then we're going to move into a Q&A. So if anyone who's watching has something that's on their mind from what we've talked about so far, or a question for the panelists, be thinking about it and drop it in the Q&A. But before we get there, Rishi and Deirdre, we've talked about a lot of things today about building relationships. What are qualities that you have seen in SEs who are able to build strong relationships across many different backgrounds?
For me, I think traditionally we would be focused on technical skills and technical backgrounds when we hire for, potential SEs or the next SE within our organizations. What I'm seeing now, from my perspective, the soft skills are more important than the technical skills. I can train the potential SE onto my platform that we're trying to sell. They can go through the onboarding, they can go through the certifications, but do they have those personal qualities or those soft skills to manage difficult internal relationships with the AEs? And every AE is a different personality, as is an SE. As well as working as a team. So one thing which benefited me to build my business case internally was to leverage the relationships of my peers. So, what are those soft skills that that individual would have to actually build strong relationships within your team and can call on the village when they need help and support? And the other thing is the personal skills with the customers and the champions. So are they willing to build a strong relationship with that champion on a one-to-one basis? So I would say soft skills are very much more important than technical skills. When I'm looking for good qualities or really nice qualities within an SE.
I agree 100% with that. Relationship building is definitely a skill, and it's one that can be learned. I'm looking for SCs that are flexible and adaptable. They have a respect for not only different cultures, but all people in general. They can be inclusive of opinions and different beliefs, and they know the importance of acknowledging and validating what someone has just said. So I'm looking for people that have emotional intelligence, They know how to negotiate, not just, financially, but they know how to negotiate different situations. They have to be confident, but also not have a big ego, right? Not a personality type or a skill set that is overbearing. It's someone that is approachable, likable. Like literally, these are the things that matter, because I know I can teach them, that we can teach them the technical side, the applications, everything they need to know. They just have to have those soft skills and really be a champion for excellence in all that they do.
This is something that I have noticed about spending time with people who are in pre-sales. And it's this shared value of wanting to do really good work and putting out a lot of respect to the people that are around us along the way. And I think you both nailed it there with the kinds of people you're describing, because at the end of the day, if I stick someone in front of a computer for a long enough time, they can probably learn Python. But there are some things that just can't be taught. And we're really looking for those individuals who are ready to bring that out of themselves to be a strong relationship builder. So let's move on to some questions from the audience. I'm going to combine two together, but the two questions that we're thinking of are, if you could start over from the beginning, how would you establish boundaries with a sales rep? And then following on from that, what advice would you give to new SEs building great relationships with the AE? So there's the two sides of it. There's the boundary side, and then also maybe the floor that we want to establish, right? And then there's a ceiling that we want to push, like how good can we make these relationships as well?
So I can start off. I've mentioned, similar things around boundaries in this session today, actually, where it's important to make sure the AE you're supporting respects your time, as well as you respecting their time. You will respect their time because it's a professional thing to do in the world of working. But with that one particular AE, you had to just be quite open and be like, look, I'm supporting two of your other colleagues. I've only got 40 hours in the week. I'm going to segment my week with, these days supporting you and the other days supporting the other AEs. So I think that time management and that respect has to be mutual. And I think one thing which I've gained over my time within, working as a sales engineer or now working in a management role, it's important to make sure the SEs have a point of view. And, today we've been talking about, don't fear of actually giving your opinion and being open and honest and have a point of view. If an AE is like being a sucker of your time, you have to be open and be like, you know what, I can't handle this at the moment. This is only what I can do within the scope of the time I have. Let's try and organize this and plan this more effectively so you're getting supported. So maybe you have to get someone else involved to help support, or maybe you have to, I've been watching some messages around SMEs, so you might have to get an SME involved, so the AE doesn't feel underappreciated as well. So you just have to be a bit strategic in terms of that relationship. And the other one is around getting to know AEs. It's, find some common grounds, find something that, you can talk about. You can have a one-to-one or have a coffee chat about, or, you may be interested in certain sports or hobbies, find that common ground outside of work. And it doesn't have to be going to the pub all the time. It can be about, themes, books, topics, sports, hobbies, movies, traveling, anything. When you start building that personal relationship with the AEs, and again, you don't have to spend your whole weekend with them. You just need to find a few common things that you can talk about apart from quotas, prospects, customers, deals, accounts, all that sort of stuff, right? So I would say that's really worked for me over time.
Love that. I would add to that volunteering activities too, right? Things that they can do together to serve the community. Love those answers. I think from a boundaries perspective for us, it's, even though we have a system in place that works really well and our AEs are very respectful of work-life harmony, sometimes, things come up where we do have urgent executive team or CSO calls or calls that we don't have enough time to prepare for. Literally, like there's just not enough time in the days leading up to that particular presentation. So being mindful of, just that work-life harmony is an area that we continue to work on, and we'll pull people from other, things that they're doing and bring them in, and we have a very team approach and we get it done. But yet, there are a couple people who tend to be more of the offenders of that versus others that never run into that problem, but yet they're pitching to the same, CROs and CSOs and sales leaders. So, it's just helping some of the AEs realize that they can push back on the prospect to have healthy boundaries. And then I think where we could push the envelope is, our SCs are really good at saying what they think. There's a few of them that are still learning, though, that they can have direct conversations with the AEs. So in a particular example would be the AE thinks this deal is in commit. Like, yep, we're going to get this deal. Absolutely know it. And on the technical side, the SC is saying, we're not a fit. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We're just no way we're going to get this deal. And so I challenge the SC to say, have that conversation with the AE. What is it that AE knows that you don't know, having just been on a subset of the calls? And well, turns out in one case, that AE happened to be like best friends with the decision maker. Like there's these things that SCs don't always see. So it's important to have those direct conversations, like, show me, tell me what you know, why this is committed. So that's where we can push the envelope a little bit more to make sure the dialogue is back and forth.
Really well said, both of you. And I'm just smiling and laughing away because whenever I spend time with the pre-sales professionals around here, I just see things happening that have happened literally in the last 2 weeks around my company. And Deirdre, I think you nailed it again with the idea that you should approach these conversations with absolute candor, but not in a condescending way. Your question of what's the missing information for me is so perfect. And I'm definitely going to use that for myself next time I run into a situation where things are starting making sense. So we have a couple more questions to hit here, and it looks like we got some time as well. So Deirdre, with what you listed as qualities that you're looking for SEs today, how important do you consider a college degree? And is it possible, or what does it look like for someone who might not have a college degree to come into the SE space? And maybe for both or all of us, have we ever hired someone that didn't have a college degree? So Deirdre, let's start with you, and then Rishi after.
Yes, hired an executive chef who managed a team of 80 people. We call him Solution Chef. He's now a director of solutions consulting. He has the ability, he's absolutely amazing with integrations. And he's like, it doesn't matter that he didn't have a college degree. It doesn't matter that anyone, in my opinion, doesn't have a college degree. I'm not concerned about what you've done in the past. I want to know what can you do.
That's incredible. I never cease to be amazed by the kinds of people that can make it in this profession, because you're absolutely right to see the skills and dedication that are displayed in all sorts of backgrounds. Rishi, you're going to add something?
Yeah, I've got 2 examples that come to mind. So I personally have hired SEs. I've hired 2 SEs who used to be builders. So they worked in the construction industry. So they didn't come out of university or college, but again, they worked in teams. They were working to, no pun intended, build their ultimate goal. They're focusing on projects and delivering those projects as builders. And my first manager where I work was a footballer. So he was playing football when he was 16 or 17. He could have gone pro. For some reason, he decided to go into sales. I'm not sure. but anyway, that's his choice. And again, he was working in a team. He learned the disciplines of, you know, what the end goal is going to be. Again, no pun intended. It's just literally like, you know, the working as a team in a football game, trying to win the game, you know, trying to close the deal, trying to win the customer over. There's so many qualities out there, and actually, I'm just, you know, I'm not ashamed to plug it, but the Pre-Sales Academy is doing a great job coaching and bringing potential sales engineers and rock stars who may not be coming from a university or college background. There's so much potential out there, you know. I mean, I only found out about the SE role a couple of years ago, and believe it or not, I thought it was like an electrical engineer. You know, I came from investment banking and I didn't even know what an SE was. When I got given the job opportunity, I thought, you know, I'm going to be paid like an electrical engineer. It's going to be very hands-on, practical. You know, I had a different view of what the SE was, completely the opposite. But I think, yeah, you know, we've got individuals who don't come from an academic background, and I think it's a great career to step into.
Just have to chime in. We've hired 2 PSA grads too, and I honestly can't tell you if they have college degrees. Like literally, one had his own successful company, and the other one had a background in sales, and that's what we valued. I mean, they just both had those soft skills and spades. Those are the things that matter. And you know what else too is, I know that they've been fully trained and vetted in how to do a discovery call, what a good demo looks like, value messaging. Like, I wish we had PSA grads like decades ago.
Yeah, wow, this is amazing. And I really like the questions about people who are thinking about how to grow their careers within the pre-sales space. I mean, we're all sitting here talking about it. It's so exciting. And Rishi and Deirdre, I'm amazed at the stories that you guys have. This is incredible to hear about. So a couple of questions in the chat about what strong skills are desired to be successful as an SE. What are the best steps to be taking to grow your career here? I think that the first thing I have to say is that definitely dig into the Pre-Sales Collective resources. There is a ton of not only backlog content, but the stuff that comes out even on a month-to-month basis is really incredible. You know, surround yourself with the ideas and thinking of people that have done this before and see who resonates, and then get in touch with them. Like I said, I sincerely believe that this community is one that believes in helping each other and lifting each other up. So that's probably the first place to start. And then I'm sure you'll come up with the right ideas beyond that, or look into some serious coaching relationships that are help you achieve your goals. We are nearly at time, and I have a couple of questions that I still want to get out there. So maybe one for both of you again. When we think about the transition out of working as an IC into leadership, how do you think that plays in, and what relationships have you leaned on in your progression in that area?
So I can talk to this one as well from personal experiences. I've made that transition twice in the 5 years of being where I am, and some of you might think, okay, that's quite a short space of time. One thing which was very challenging for me is that mindset shift. So as an IC, you're deep in the weeds, you're really focused on your accounts, you're planning, you know, you're in these sessions with the AEs and the prospect and the customers. Moving into leadership, you're moving into a higher level role. You know, it took me some time to let go of being stuck in the weeds. So, you know, I went to in a management role where I was managing 6 SEs. But I was still getting involved in those detailed deal reviews, and I was still, you know, trying to tell the AE and the SE what to do to make that, you know, deal successful. And I had to be like, well, tell myself that number one is I don't have that much time now to get so detailed and granular on those conversations. I have a team who should be feeling empowered, and let them go and let them learn. So I moved into a coaching, you know, mindset shift. So I became a coach from being a player. And I think I went through that intermediary step of being a player coach for a little while for my mentally, but I had forced myself to, like, you know what, let go, Rishi. you've got a whole team who's going to be working on this, but you're not disappearing. You're there to coach them and support them. And yeah, it takes some time, especially if you've been in IC for a long time. But I would say just let go and trust your team, empower them. I've learned that, you know, your success is in their success. It's not about your personal success. You're a manager now. You shouldn't be thinking about going to President's Club as an IC. You should be supporting and coaching your team to be at President's Club. So there's that whole shift in mentality, psychology, and mindset shift, I think, from that perspective.
I agree with that. I think I would also add making sure that everyone on your team knows which pathway they want to go. Do they want to stay as an IC, or do they want to grow into management? And if they want to stay as an IC, there's one path to help them accelerate their career, earn more money, get a promotion. If they want to stay, or if they want to go into management, start exposing them to what that looks like. Loop them into some of the calls that you're doing where you're actually managing, right? You're giving them some exposure for their career so that they can grow into management with a full understanding of what it looks like.
Thank you both. We're ready to wrap up now. So Rishi and Deirdre, thank you again for all of your expertise. I've been impressed and I've learned a lot throughout this discussion. Thank you as well to everyone who has attended. And thank you for putting this on, Shauna and the rest of the pre-sales team. Rishi and Deirdre, anything you want to say while we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you for everyone who's joined. We're all a community. My point of view, Deirdre's point of view, Matthew, yours may be different to others. We're not always right. I want to share and collaborate with everyone. I learn so much from the pre-sales collective, on a daily basis. So all I'm going to say is we're there to help each other out. I'm using the PSC every day to help me and ask for advice and support. Don't feel alone. If you want to like brainstorm, or you want to ask some questions, or you want to throw a few ideas back and forth, then I'm always here to help any SE as part of the PSC or others as well. And I'm learning from everyone as well, so I think that's really important, that let's get help from each other and help us progress in our careers.
I echo all that and just really am appreciative of the PSC for having diversity as a topic, right? We know that we're our best when we're considering all ideas from everyone. And so just having open minds, right? As we're continuing to move along in our journeys, just remember to have open minds.
Thank you three so much. What an exciting conversation. I feel like this has been, I've said this all day, it's been in the works for so long. It's so exciting to see this conversation come to life. I hope you see that the chat is lighting up on fire. The Slack chat is lighting up on fire. There's so much great conversation around this. Thank you three for such an amazing conversation.